Not all dogs go to heaven.
Yeah, they do.
You think her dog went to heaven?
Hopefully.
Oh yeah, big time.
I'm kind of on her side a little bit.
Okay, well, you're a bad person.
I mean, all right, well, we can talk about it, but
It's the potpourri.
Michael, bring us.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the BCM podcast. I still have something to say about what we were just talking about. Is Christy Nome going to heaven?
No. I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to say that. Yes, she is.
Yeah, she is. Okay. Well, welcome to the BCM podcast. We're live on YouTube. I'm trying to tweet about it as I'm hosting the show. I am the host today, Michael Searle. At the bottom, with the laser eyes, Christy Nome, Brad Swail. And up in the top left or right, I don't know, is Charles Blain. First of order of business, I reached out to, what's his name? Why am I blanking on his name? The founder. No. The founder of the Disclosure Project, Dr. Stephen Greer.
Right.
And he said, I'd love to come on your podcast as soon as you have 1 million subscribers. So everybody, stop what you're doing. Subscribe. We have 999,800 or 700 and something to go. So subscribe.
Dang, did he really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, a little too big for his britches, don't you think? 1 million? Like, what if you have 900,000? Is that not good enough?
Be careful of who you treat on the way up because they're going to be there on your way down.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
We'll check back in with him when we have 900,000 subscribers and be like, how about now?
When he reaches out to us, when he sees our meteoric rise after this episode, he'll reach out to us and we'll say, we only talk to people that have 10 million followers.
Yeah.
When they circle back, the price is double. Do not. No.
That's right.
Yep. Well, today we're going to finally broach the long avoided content of Israel, Palestine, and the protests. I'm mostly interested in talking about what Congress has done, but we'll talk about all the other surrounding issues. We're going to talk about lab-grown meat. We're going to talk about Vivek Ramaswamy and Ann Coulter, and Brad's got a surprise topic: the potpourri.
I guess before we get started, should we talk about Christy Nome shooting her dog? You said you had something else to say about that.
That was it. I was just going to ask you guys if she's going to heaven.
If she repents.
Look, I haven't read the book. All right. I don't know the full story. But from what I've seen, it's not just she shot a dog because she didn't like it. Right. She lives in North Dakota. Is that right?
It doesn't matter. I don't care what state you shoot a dog in.
It does matter because there's different cultures, right? And I'm not saying that I'm going to go shoot a dog if the same thing happens, but I think what the problem was, if I'm understanding correctly, the dog kept like eating chickens and they couldn't get it to stop, right? And so they put the dog down. Is that the best way to put it down? Shooting it? Probably not. In a gravel pit or whatever. It's kind of crazy. It's weird that she even told this story for publication, but it's a different culture. I think that when you live out in the boonies, out in the sticks, and a dog is acting up or an animal is acting up, you put it down. I don't know. I don't think I would go about it that way. I maybe would, drive it to, I don't know, what's a North Dakota city? What's the capital?
Sioux Falls.
Huh?
No, that's South Dakota. Sioux Falls.
Whatever. Ship it off to Sioux Falls for to have them euthanize it in their kennels.
Well, first of all, I am from the sticks, and you don't shoot dogs that kill chickens. You take the dead chicken carcass and you wrap it around their neck, and you let it decay wrapped around their neck so that they don't want to kill chickens anymore. That's what you do.
Oh my God, you're a monster.
Tell us what you're into, Michael.
All the people that are actually from the sticks, not named Christy Nome, tell me that I'm right in the comments.
And we have to correct something. So Sioux Falls is a city in South Dakota, and she is also the governor of South Dakota.
Yeah, we should probably get that right.
I just Googled.
Yeah.
But no, I agree. You don't shoot the dog and throw it in a tar pit. Like you take it and give it away. You put it on Craigslist. You do something else, or you try to find out the root cause of why the dog is eating chickens. Maybe it's not having enough food.
You're talking like a city boy. Like there's just a big Craigslist and a bunch of people want this dog. And I don't think that's the case everywhere. I live in Austin, and we're probably to a fault a no-kill city. And, if I lived in Austin and a dog's acting up, I can easily find someone that wants this dog, right? But if I live out in the middle of nowhere and you got a hunting dog that's not doing it right and keeps causing trouble. Maybe they did tie the carcass around its neck and it made it chickens more. I don't know. I'm not defending her. I'm just saying maybe there's more to the story and, whatever. It's not it's not good. Whatever. Fuck you guys.
Ultimately, I think we can all agree that she should not have put it in the book. And the fact that this is like the second controversy out of the book, and the book, I don't even know if it's out yet, is a little weird. Like the other one is when she lied about meeting Kim Jong-un and then she had it removed because she got called out for it. It's like, why would you put that in a book if it did not happen? I don't understand what the reason you would put that in a book when it didn't happen, and then you put killing a dog in that did happen. Like, maybe you should lie about that one.
We should treat animals humanely. Is how I feel. Okay.
Yeah. Well, some people are vying for the Veep spot, and they're going to take her down. And she gave him a lot of ammunition.
She killed a dog. That's disqualified.
And lied about meeting Kim Jong-un.
But I don't want to fight person who kills dogs for fun.
Yeah, that lady's got some problems. But let's get into the topics. We don't need to announce, but obviously there are an eruption of protests on college campuses across America. And there's a lot of people talking about them. There's people on the pro-Israel side who are like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened on a college campus. And there are people on the pro-whatever side, Palestine, Hamas, whatever side you want to call it, who are like, this is just free speech, And I think, my position, and I'll let you guys kind of talk about what you think. I mean, my position is probably a bit more nuanced than just going into one camp and agreeing with what everybody says on that side of the camp or in that side. But I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts of what's going on college campuses and all the reaction, including the piece of legislation that just passed Congress.
Will you tell us first your opinion, Mr. Nuance Bro? Why don't you open it up and tell us?
Well, I mean, there's so much going on here, right? There's the issue of foreign policy and should the U.S. be funding Israel in their war against Hamas? There's that issue. There's the issue of free speech. Are we allowed to say crazy shit? Yes, not on YouTube. We might get canceled on this show, but we're allowed to say insane things. That's part of our right, our God-given right under the First Amendment to say crazy things. And then there's the politics of it all. There's the AIPAC and the Israel lobby who exercise a lot of influence over Congress, and they're certainly exercising that influence right now. And there's just so many factors. When I say the nuanced position, I just recognizing that there are complications to either side of the issue. And I just see people, for the most part, there's some people on the right who are finally like, okay, this bill that you just passed in Congress, that is a bridge too far. There are some people on the right saying that, but there's still some defending it because they're just willing to defend anything when it comes to the Israel-Hamas or Israel-Palestine conflict on the Israeli side. And I just think that's low-level type thinking.
That's fair. I mean, yeah, you're right. I don't disagree with that. I think my where I center on this is mostly on because I don't think these kids care or know about foreign policy, and I don't think these kids care or know much about I mean, they care about free speech, but I don't think at their core they care about it. I think these kids are often just riding the wave of whatever is popular, and they're kind of going out and doing it. But should then you use the arm of government to in some instances ruin these kids' lives? I think you have a lot of these kids who cross the line whether it's you're not supposed to have the encampment and you have the encampment, or you're prohibiting people from crossing campus and getting to class, or you're interrupting graduation ceremonies. And you're doing these things that are actually problematic versus the kids who are just there protesting and exercising civil disobedience. And I think a lot of those are getting lumped into one, but I think the bigger conversation that we've kind of, not us, but as the royal we have kind of touched upon, but not really, is that a lot of these are like paid protesters inciting this stuff that are trying to get these kids riled up, and these kids are dumb enough to go along with it. Just like every other one of these major protests over the past 3 years, people have been dumb enough to follow along with whatever inciters are in the crowd. And so I think you get to that point that's like, all right, well, maybe we should take a step back and kind of try to sort through this. And I don't know that that's happening. You know, you just keep seeing these tweets from in Texas, legislators being like, yeah, take these kids down, like kick them out of school. Like, okay, like really, like you want to ruin this kid's life for being an idiot? Like I thought a couple years ago we said we didn't want to do that. We didn't want kids to have their lives ruined over doing and saying stupid stuff. Is it wrong in many instances? Yeah. Do I agree with it? No. But should their lives be permanently ruined because of something that they said when they were 17, 18 years old? Because they're an idiot. No, what kid hasn't gotten arrested like at 16, 17, 18, you know, not for doing the things they're doing, but
a lot of kids have not been arrested at 16, 17, 18.
Not arrested, like
vast majority.
Not arrested, but found themselves in conflict with police, whether that's running from a party or, you know, something, not getting necessarily arrested for a serious offense. But
Carl, you have some stories to tell?
I was arrested at 16.
What?
I mean, it was stupid. It was a dumb situation. We were at a Sweet 16. All the guys in the Sweet 16, I don't know if you guys had these in Texas, but girls had Sweet 16s, and they would have a Sweet 16 court with 16 guys, 16 girls. And then, so all of the 16 of us guys went off to go smoke weed. And
why in quotations?
Because I didn't smoke weed at the time. I just went to hang out.
At the time?
Huh?
At the time.
Now either, but I'm just saying.
Uh-oh.
But then we got arrested for trespassing because we were like by these train tracks smoking weed behind this thing. And so, but yeah, I was 16. I did community service, whatever.
What do you think changed, Charles? I wonder. So you say just a couple of years ago, we were all saying like, yeah, they're young. We don't want to, ruin their lives over something that's something they said when they're young and dumb and all that stuff. What changed? Why is this one different, do you think?
I think a couple things. I don't think this one is specifically different. I think when you look
different to them,
to who?
The people that said, hey, these are young kids, like they're stupid. They're going to do dumb things. We don't agree with them, but let them say their stupid stuff. What's different this time?
Sure. And I know where you're encouraging me to go, but I don't think that's the answer. I think what is different this time, it's the same thing that was different from the BLM protest to the January 6th protest. It's politics. I think people are so caught up in their tribal mentality that they don't view this as an issue, but they view the other as an issue. And so I think that's really what the difference is. These people are protesting something that these kids are protesting against something that they agree with, just like the January 6th protesters were protesting against something that they agreed with, or protesting against something they agree with, but they agree with the protesters. And so they sided with them. And so I think that's what it is. I mean, because you cannot look at, sure, there were BLM riots, without a doubt, but immediately after January 6th, what did everybody say? Oh, who supported the January 6th protesters? Oh, there were people in the crowd inciting the riots. But yet when that argument was made for the BLM protest 6 months to a year before that, it was like, that could never be true. So, I mean, it's the same thing. It's just the same thing of an opposite coin. It's politics.
Mm-hmm.
What are you insinuating, Brad?
Is it just politics, and who's influencing those politics? I'm confused. I just want to know if it's just politics, who's influencing the politics to make this political issue specifically such a hot button issue. I mean, I have zero sympathy for all of this, by the way, because we had the summer of love, right, with the BLM riots and people protesting all over the place during COVID. And of course you can go out. COVID is a threat to everyone's health. Don't go outside unless, of course, you're protesting racial justice. Then you can go out and you can be in a crowd and you can do whatever the hell you want. You can destroy property. You can do whatever, and nothing will happen. Antifa can do whatever the fuck they want. They can throw Molotov cocktails at federal buildings. Who cares, right? And there's been all sorts of terrible rhetoric on college campuses for a long time now. And all of a sudden, on this specific issue, I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for it.
There was no legislative push to ban speech in the wake of the Black Lives Matter protests. This is it. I agree with Brad. It's different. And I don't necessarily think the only issue there is the influence. I think, gosh, I'm going to get us in trouble. Oh God.
Do it.
I think there are certain factions, and well, as an example, Ben Shapiro.
Real quick. Michael has said a couple times on this podcast, like, I'm about to get us in trouble. And then, like, when he says it, it's like, it's something like, oh, I'm going to say the word. And he goes, gosh, dang it. And then, like, it's like, all right. So please, go ahead.
Ben Shapiro said the other day, and I don't know, I don't know what the context was, but he's like, part of the reason we protect Israel is because if the Muslim world controlled it, we wouldn't be able to do archaeological digs to find the proof that Jesus existed. And that's what
you think the protest?
My point of bringing that up is for many on the religious Christian right that are huge parts of the conservative movement. It's a religious reason. Like, it's part of their religion. If we let Israel go, that's God's chosen land and we won't be able to prove that Jesus existed. And it's partially at least driven by a religious belief, which it would explain, why we're willing to go to great lengths.
I have a really hard time believing that the average Christian Zionist has thought in the least about if Israel gets destroyed or is taken over by Muslims, then we're not going to be able to find proof of Jesus' existence. That sounds.
Well, I think
I don't know that it's explicit. I don't know that it's explicit.
I think that they might support it because of a religious belief of that's God's chosen land or whatever and all that stuff. And it kind of bothers me when politicians talk about God's chosen people, and it's that makes them quite special, and you're going to do extra special things to protect them. Whereas I am not God's chosen person, I guess, and so I don't get the same treatment. It seems kind of weird. Kristi Noem, right behind me, Charles's favorite politician. She said something like that, and it's kind of like, well, that rubs me the wrong way a little bit.
Wait, what rubs you the wrong way that she said that Israel is God's chosen land?
That we have to support Israel because Jews are God's chosen people.
Okay.
Does that not make sense? Like, if they're talking about one specific group of people as God's chosen, and you're not of that group, doesn't that bother you a little bit that maybe they're going to do extra special things to protect these extra special people that they wouldn't do for you?
I mean, not particularly for me, because I read the Bible. I don't no, it doesn't.
It doesn't matter if you read the Bible or not.
Right, so I don't take offense to it, though. Is what I'm saying, because I feel like it tracks the I don't feel offended by that. No, is what I'm saying. I think
I'm not offended.
Oh, you just said you were offended.
I'm saying it makes me a little concerned that I'm not a part of that, but they say, well, these are God's chosen people. We need to do extra special things for these people because they're God's chosen, right? But I'm not. I'm just a regular little white guy.
Well, and I want to clarify, I have not read the Bible from beginning to end. I have not. But I mean, by
your mom's gonna be so pissed off at you.
But by accepting Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, so I don't necessarily agree with your argument, but I can see where you're coming from. Maybe a little bit, maybe.
I mean, if I said that white people are America's chosen people, wouldn't that bother you?
It's different. I mean, it is different.
Let's say white people are God's chosen people. Wouldn't that bother you? Or Asians?
I mean, but there's no historical context.
Who gives a fuck what the historical context is if that's what they believe?
But the reason they believe it is because of the historical and biblical context of that. So
go ahead.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't care about the history of it, right? If we are forced to pay into this government system and they can take as much money from us as they want and give it to whoever they want, and we can't do anything about it, well, I guess we could vote harder and maybe that'll change. Good luck. But if you're saying that one group is God's chosen, whether it's Jewish people, white people, black people, Asian people, or whatever, I'm paying into the system and being forced to participate against my will, then they're going to treat those people differently. And that's not the purpose of government. The government is supposedly not supposed to treat people differently.
So, and I think you're making a great point. I think what you're making a great point is that we're using government to pursue a religious agenda. And I think that is a very fair point that you're making, which is completely separate and apart from whether or not they're God chosen. Like, all of that is a separate question. Whether or not you believe that they are, the question is, should our government be using our tax dollars to pursue an agenda that is derived from that? And I think that's a fair question. I would argue, regardless of arguing for or against that we do that for so many places. And should we do it? I think it's a broader question that is not specific to Israel.
The level, well, I agree. The level to which we are willing to do with what Charles just said, I'm responding to him. We do it not just in Israel, but we're funding Ukraine, like Ukraine, I would just say the extent to which we're willing to go when it involves Israel is a higher degree than anywhere else. And as an example, the Congress just passed a bill that said you can't say certain things about the state of Israel or the Israeli people, which is a complete violation of the First Amendment. Regardless of if I agree with it or not, what people are saying or not, you can't tell people what they can and cannot say.
Which I think goes back to the point, which I think is where we all agree, is that is conflating the kind of religious tie to Israel and what we are using our government to enforce. And those two things should be separate. Right. We should not be passing laws saying you cannot speak ill or whatever your speech is of another country. That is essentially somewhat like saying you can't speak ill about British people. I mean, it's kind of. Yeah. But
the Republican Party just was on a crusade for 2.5, 3 years or whatever about free speech. They're holding hearings. They're lifting up the Twitter files. Like, they were going through all this stuff about suppression of speech and how they're the free speech party. And then all of a sudden, when it becomes Israel that people are talking bad about, they are not free speech advocates anymore. They are just employing the tactics of the left that they were just criticizing for the last 3 years to shut people up. They don't want to speak.
And I agree with that. But to my earlier point, how is that any different than all of the things that the Republican Party does a reversal on, that they disagree with the Democrats on? Then when it comes to other issues that they side with, they change their policy positions. I mean, how is that any different? And yes, Brad's probably gonna be like, give me one example, and I'm gonna have to think of one now. But how is that any different than
what makes you think I don't agree with you?
I don't think you definitely disagree. I just felt like the give me an example was coming. But I don't see that as different than anything else that the party does, because it is and going back to the BLM January 6th protest, don't see that as any different than them refusing to believe that there were infiltrators in the BLM protest, but immediately believing that there were that they were in the January 6th protest. Supporting cops when it's convenient for them, and then opposing cops when it's not. Supporting civil asset forfeiture when they see it being good, and then you previously opposing it before Democrats also opposed. I mean, it's a constant thread in the party.
Yeah, well, it's especially, Michael, going back to the bill that you're talking about, the anti-Semitism bill or whatever. They're allowing, what's the name of the organization? They're getting the definition of anti-Semitism from whatever website, the Israeli. Huh? No, it's something else. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they're in the bill. It's referencing a website and about anti-Semitism, and they get to define what it is. So this third party gets to say, here's what anti-Semitism means. And that's what it means today to them, but they might come up with another definition, something else that's also anti-Semitic. And we could agree or disagree all day about whether it's anti-Semitic or not. But there's this third party that's not governmental, that we have no control over, that gets to decide what we can and cannot say, which is especially strange. I don't know that that's ever happened. Is that something they normally do, is allow third parties to define what something is in a bill? That in perpetuity they can change?
Well, I don't think we have bills like this, period. So this would be a first, and a first in terms of like what you can and cannot say. So whether or not they've historically allowed third parties to decide what definitions are is kind of irrelevant in this case because they've never done this.
Yeah. Well,
And-
now we're. What?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say one thing that I will like. I want to acknowledge that I could be I am very biased about this issue, just because, or in large part because of the role that Jewish people played in the civil rights movement as well. And so I completely acknowledge that I might not be viewing it through an objective lens. It is very subjective, because I do look at that as some context that influences the way I'm thinking about it today.
Hey, I've got a question. I don't want to.
I've got an answer.
I don't want to keep us on this topic. Did we have a major anti-Semitism problem before October 7th in America?
Okay, it's a good question. I don't know. I'm not Jewish.
Sorry?
I don't know. I mean, I really don't, because here's the thing. I said the same thing the other day to one of my friends. I was like, I didn't realize anti-Semitism was such a thing. And he's like, we've always dealt with this. It's just now being put on full display. I did not realize prior to October 7th that it was a thing. And I think it's a similar sense to how post George Floyd, there was a big conversation about how black people feel in America. And a lot of white people were like, I never realized this happened. And so I don't know. I can't say that we did or didn't, but from people I've spoken with, some people say that we have, and it's just not something that's gone noticed.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of like showing up to like synagogues and stuff and like threatening to blow them up, I don't recall seeing that much stuff on the news about that prior to October 7th. But in different one-on-one experiences and things like that. I mean, remember a couple years ago, there was that the Orthodox Jewish boy who they recorded the video of. He was walking down the street in New York, and it was like a black guy who came up to him and started making fun of him, and like it was a whole thing about it. Yes, that was a one-off incident, but I do know that Orthodox Jews in New York and in Brooklyn have had incidences like that happen a lot. So I don't know what the rate of those are, but so I can't speak to it. I really can't. I don't know. You guys.
Why do black people hate Jewish people? That's the example you came up with, man. I don't know. I'm just extrapolating.
It was one anecdote.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer. I know that anti-Semitism has always existed, and that is what it is. Is it more now? Probably, in the sense that how they define anti-Semitism for criticism of the government of Israel is now anti-Semitic. So sure, I guess in a way now it is more. We are a more anti-Semitic society, though I don't believe that that's anti-Semitism. I don't particularly like the government of Israel in the sense that I think that they're a government, and so therefore they lie through their teeth every chance they get, just like every other government. They're not unique. And so am I anti-Semitic for thinking that?
According to this new law, you are. That was my point. That was my point. Are we interchanging the words anti-Semitism with criticism of the actions of a government? And we started to talk about this last week. And you can have, it's okay to have opinions on either side of what the Israeli government is doing in response to the horrific attacks of October 7th. It's fine to have an opinion of that. But if then you label one side of that argument as anti-Semitism and say you can't say that, you're basically saying you can't criticize the actions of a government in response to a terrorist attack, which just seems crazy. Why couldn't I criticize them?
I wonder, why is that? Why can't you do it? What's going on?
What do you want to say, Brad?
I'm asking a question.
I think that there are some people who do say you can't criticize it, just like no hold bar, like you cannot say a thing. And then I think others, because I heard somebody say this the other day, that if you look at it in the context of like America, and I don't know if I'm going to get these numbers right, but someone said along the lines of if they had attacked Galveston, it would be the equivalent of 42,000 Americans being killed. And I don't know if that number was right, but I believe that's what they said. And so would you respond the same way to the United States if there were that many people in proportion to our population killed and the United States responded, right? Like, I mean, if it was the biggest attack on them since the Holocaust, and so I don't know what that would be for us. Maybe, I mean, Pearl Harbor is not even an equivalent example, but just say Pearl Harbor, and then we responded to that. I mean, how
we can criticize. I think we did it on the show. We criticized the government's response to that with the nuclear bombs, right? And people criticize the government's response to 9/11 going in and attacking countries that had nothing to do with it.
Right. I'm not saying it should be illegal. I'm just saying the people who are pushing back against it, I see their perspective. I can see like they might push back against those examples I just mentioned as well, but I can also see why someone would oppose pushback against it, is what I'm saying. But in terms of using government to ban the speech, no.
Yeah, but we went through this after 9/11. If you opposed what the government did, they called you. They said you're either with the terrorists or with America. Like they used the same kind of labeling to shut down any even valid criticism of the response. And I think that the same tactics are being used here. And all I'm suggesting is people should be free to criticize the actions of any government. I don't care, including us and the Israeli government. I mean, we haven't even got into the merits of what the criticisms could possibly be. We're just arguing about whether or not you should be able to say it. And I think it's crazy that I'm not talking about the three of us. I'm talking about in the country. I think it's just crazy that some people on the right, including the vast majority of the Republican Party, supported a bill that says you can't say things critical of another government, especially because we're giving them our tax dollars.
And I agree with you there. And to clarify my position before, I think if you want to say something critical of somebody and then Brad wants to argue against that, fine. Both of you have the right to do that. If you want to say something critical of somebody or something and Brad wants to pass a bill to ban you from saying that, that's when it becomes a problem. So I completely agree.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to pass a bill. We should get some people in the cup. We got some people watching. They should comment down below. What do they think? That would be
Brian Searle. I mean, he's been our number one viewer. He hasn't been back for a couple of weeks. I don't know what we said.
Who is it?
Michael's brother. Ever since you said that thing about that he had to correct you on, he wrote like a 14 paragraph response. Remember? He's never come back since then. I can't remember.
I'd love to hear Brian Searle's thoughts if he wants to comment.
He's probably.
And what's the other Papa Roach? What's his name? Philip Roach. So who I think I might know, by the way. So do you want to move on, Michael? What do you want to do?
Do you guys have anything else on that? I mean, we spent half the show talking about it. I can definitely move on.
I mean, I have no sympathy for this. I don't really care. I think there's such bigger issues that we need to be focusing on. I think it's totally fucked that the government has this like super heavy-handed response to this specifically. And yeah, maybe some response is warranted, fine, but we've had shit like this a lot in the past 5 years, let's say, and hardly anything was done. It was allowed, basically, stand down orders, that kind of stuff. And it's just the juxtaposition there is really activates the almonds.
Charles?
No.
Thoughts?
Okay. I just hope my position was clear. I agree with you guys for the most part, full stop. My agreement is that government shouldn't be used to enforce speech. I do agree that I can see why the other side is being argued in terms of what is said and what should be said, which I think I just made my argument even less clear by saying that.
I'm not even sure if you're speaking English, man. I don't know what's happening.
He's saying the pushback against people who are criticizing the state of Israel, the actions of the state of Israel, is justified. The pushback, not legally, but the pushback rhetorically.
Right. Yeah. Feel free to say what you want back and forth on that. But yes, using government to enforce or prohibit certain speech, I think is where we become from. Because
next, Charles is going to say he agrees with them.
No, I don't agree with that.
The protesters. You were wearing a shirt before we started recording. I advised you to take it off, but it said something about river to sea or something. I don't know.
That didn't happen. All right. So let's do, so the state of Florida recently passed a ban on lab grown meat. I know that Brad has lots to say about this, being the carnivore. Well, we've got two carnivores in the group today.
No, you don't.
And our ag commissioner, Sid Miller, is thinking or advocating that the legislature do the same thing here in Texas, which would be to prohibit what is it called? The creation, the production,
and distribution
of lab grown meat.
And since we shared this in the group chat, just so people know that this is something that's growing, on May 7th, Alabama signed a law now banning lab grown meat as well. So it's happening. We're starting to see this happen in multiple places.
What do you guys think?
Why aren't you a carnivore anymore, Charles?
I fell off. I had an event last Friday and I ate food that wasn't meat, unfortunately.
You're fucking disgusting, man.
The disappointment on Brad's face. Oh.
I do want to get back to. I'm gonna get back to it because I did enjoy it and I felt a lot better. And my workouts felt better and I enjoyed it. So I'm just always hungry. Sorry,
you're not eating enough.
Yeah, we have there's two separate questions here. There's the efficacy or the value of lab grown meat, and then there's the use of government. These are the two issues I see. Then there's the use of government to prohibit the market and say you can't do this. And those are the two big issues I see here. What do you think, Brad?
What do I think? Well, I don't. It's hard to say. It's such a new thing, right? I'm not really excited about the prospects of lab grown meat. I don't really trust the idea. It seems kind of weird that we have a perfectly good source of meat as it is, and that's a cow. And certainly there's problems with that. Mass, factory farming is certainly dirty and not great. And maybe they don't treat the animals right every single time. Maybe they shoot them in a gravel pit. I don't know, but it's it's a perfectly good product. It's great and it tastes great. But when you start introducing, the lab, what culture are they growing it on? What other aspects are getting into this? Is it just pure meat? Probably not. I think that there's a lot of, what are they going to add to it? There's been reports, people that have eaten it say it doesn't really taste quite right. So what are they going to be adding to make it taste quite right? Make the color just right. All these other additives when you have a perfectly good ribeye right there at HEB or wherever you shop. I don't know, Tom Thumb, fucking gross. I don't trust it. Right? I don't know. Seems not good.
And to your point, I agree. And just to clarify, because I had to do some research, I didn't know precisely what it was. I thought lab grown meat, they were talking about like Beyond Burgers and things like that. That is separate. That is plant-based meat. Lab grown meat
dog food.
Lab grown meat is where they actually take animal cells and reproduce meat in a lab. And I thought maybe it's because people couldn't eat meat. You could have that. No, that's not the case. If you can't eat meat, you still can't eat this. The only benefit is that like the carbon footprint is lower. It's can be mass produced, things like that. I don't think there's any like genuine health benefit from it that I was able to find. And so when I had learned that, my position changed a bit because I thought, I still don't think the government should be abusing it, but I think it's absolutely stupid. What's the point of eating it if you can just eat regular meat? Unless you're that worried about the environment, then please spare me. But I think it's crazy that the government's stepping in to be like, you can't eat this because it's just stupid. It's stupid because then they're going to say you can't. There's no difference between saying we're going to ban lab grown meat and we're going to ban cage free chicken eggs or like whatever. Like why? And it's purely red meat for the base. That's all it is. That is all they're trying to do is fire up the base. They know the base likes this, and it's throwing a bone to farmers, which is also annoying.
Yeah, DeSantis has a knack for picking out these red meat issues, pun intended. I won't be participating in lab-grown meat eating. I can say that. Like I'm not.
You may not have a choice.
For a number of reasons that Brad raised, I probably just won't participate. I'm not interested in trying it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm torn on the use of government issue here because I know I'm going to get real principally inconsistent here, but there's a faction led by the Tucker Carlson types who think that we should use government to benefit things that we want to promote and what is the word I'm looking for? Prohibit things that we don't like. So in this case, disincentivize. So in this case, we're like, yeah, we want to support farmers. We want to support people eating real meat, and we don't want this lab grown stuff coming into the market. So let's use government too. And I'm kind of sympathetic to that. I mean, I think as a counter example to that is we currently subsidize the development of high fructose corn syrup and a number of things that I don't think we should be supporting. So I would support us using those subsidies to support organic farming and regenerative farming and things like that. But so there's that side of it where I'm like, I don't hate it. But the other side of it's like, let them make it and let people decide. You know, I will not be participating.
But the problem is, sorry, go ahead.
Charles. I was going to say that, it's fine to have principles, and, we should all have principles, but if they're self-defeating, then it's kind of, you're not really benefiting yourself. And maybe it's not a great principle to have, because if they don't do anything about this, and we all see the writing on the wall, you're not going to have a choice not to participate if you want to eat meat, right? They're going to make, lab grown meat the standard. They're going to make it. They'll probably go the other way. Some people will go the other way, and they want to banning livestock, banning cow. We see that in Europe, where they want to euthanize massive amounts of livestock because of climate change. Right? They want to force you to eat bugs. That's the only protein you're going to be able to eat. Right? So, all right, I may not like government intervention in this stuff, but if the government doesn't intervene, then it seems like we're going to go the exact opposite direction, where I'm not going to have a choice to go to HEB and get a real ribeye.
That's not realistic.
How is that extreme and not realistic? This is what the United Nations and Klaus Schwab's organization, what's it called again?
World Economic Forum.
World Economic Forum. That's what these people want, and that they have power and they get what they want.
Right, but banning lab-grown meat doesn't stop them from getting what they want if that's their end goal. Like, there are alternatives they can continue to find other than lab-grown meat. I mean, there's whatever it is that they can develop. Banning this isn't stopping that. And two, there is no way that they're going to get to a place. Some places might, some states, some countries, but generally speaking, like nationwide, we're not going to get to a place where meat is banned, like where you cannot have actual meat. And especially when you still have states that are so willing to go the opposite direction and ban lab-grown meat. And it's, even if you were to do X out all that, it's not I mean, if a lot of these people who claim to care about lower income folks, I looked it up. The first lab-grown meat burger, take a guess how much it costs to make the first one.
I already know how much.
$100.
$300.
What?
I thought it was 400,000, but that's not. But that's also because
guess how much it costs today?
I don't know.
Just under $50. Like, it's still very expensive.
Right, but that's because it's new technology, right? It costs a lot to develop the machines and the technology and all this other stuff, and that's how much that one, that first piece cost. And after that, the cost goes down every single time because you have all the mechanisms and processes in place.
Sure, but how many labs do you know reduce costs significantly that the general market can afford? I mean, look at healthcare. I mean, the stuff that's going to come out of labs is still going to be more expensive unless government starts making it or starts heavily subsidizing it the way they do current industries.
Well, I mean, healthcare, I think it's a different example, but I take your meaning. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just don't. I don't know how y'all disagree that there's a huge push and seemingly could be successful push to ban this sort of stuff. Not this year, not next year, but some point in the future, and not too distant future, to ban all of this stuff and try to get you to eat more only lab grown meat, and only a certain portion every single year, and all this other stuff, and bugs and everything. I mean, it just seems like.
I disagree, because look how long they've been trying to ban fossil fuels.
Yeah, I think,
but
first I would say just the logical thing is if we banned it in Texas, they'll just grow it in California or produce it in California. So it doesn't really accomplish that. And if you ban it in the United States, they'll just produce it in another country. So if your purpose of banning lab-grown meat is to not allow it into circulation, that's not going to work. Second, I think the climate.
If you don't allow it being sold in stores, then that would effectively.
But that's not that's what they're doing here. They're not saying it can't be sold in stores.
I think Alabama is.
I think distribution is, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Oh, wrong. But I think that the climate narrative is collapsing. I think that I know that they're loud and I know that they made some progress, but I think that it's at some sort of tipping point, and I don't think it's going to pervade and win. So the motivation for stuff like this will decrease.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I hope you're right.
Just to clarify, so yeah, Alabama's banning the manufacture, sale, and distribution of it, and it is punishable by a Class C misdemeanor, 3 months in jail, and fine up to $500. Florida is just banning cultivated meat, and that doesn't exactly explain what that means, but just banning cultivated meat.
Got it. Well, we'll keep an eye on
You
it.
wanna do
And
You
yeah, I want to do potpourri. Yep.
Let's clear the air a little bit.
Right.
All right. New York Post. How to find out if a woman is a psychopath. There's one obvious tell, experts say. And Charles, Michael, I know what you're thinking. It's not just because they're a woman. Okay. So what? I know that's what y'all are thinking. If it's a woman, right? So nonverbal behaviors, i.e. head dynamics, represent an important yet understudied form of communication that may enhance our ability to detect certain forms of psychopathology, including psychopathy. This is from the University of New Mexico. I don't know, is that good or not? Using an automated detection. What?
Nothing.
Using an automated detection algorithm, the research team determined that women who hold their heads perfectly still or with minimal movement while in conversation possess high levels of psychopathic propensities. Uh-oh.
Perfectly still.
I would have never even looked for that.
Well, I mean,
Now I gotta go talk to my wife and see if she moves her head.
Look at that. Good background. She looks angry. So yeah, I thought that was I mean, that kind of makes sense. It's sort of weird. Like it's maybe a little off-putting if you're really robotic about your movements or lack thereof, right? And that might show a inner sense of turmoil, inner sense of like not really fitting in. You know, I think charisma is often seen by others as, you know, very lots of hand movements and very, you move a lot when you talk, you use nonverbal communication. It can be seen as very charismatic. And so if you lack that, it's probably a little off-putting, I would think. As Michael is just slowly nodding his head and kind of saying, you know, as I talk to make sure that we know that he's not psychopathic. But is he a woman?
Well, no, I'm not. That's actually not what I'm thinking. I was like, God, should I say this on air?
Yes.
Sorry, honey. I have a long dating history that I could have used this information and been like able to identify the psychopaths. And now I can't go back in time.
To clarify, I think it's a sign of it, but I don't think all psychopaths display that. So I feel like you're still going to miss a couple.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. But I feel like anything like that is indicative of that, right? Like if you just talk purely monotone nonstop, if you don't blink while you're speaking, if you like hold eye contact for too long, like all these kind of weird social cues that you pick up, I feel like are indicative of I don't know, something being off.
Is holding eye contact for a long time, is that bad? Isn't that what we're taught to do as young men? Like look people in the eye when you talk to them.
If it's out of social norm, sure. Like there's a social norm of holding eye contact, and then there's like when it gets weird.
I don't know that it does. I think that you should look people in the eyes when you speak to them.
Sure,
I mean,
yeah.
Eye movement, like I'm going to look around a little bit, but like when I'm engaging with someone, I want to look at them in the eye.
So when you're talking to someone face to face, you never look anywhere else, ever.
I didn't say that, did I?
Well, that's what I'm saying, and you're arguing against it.
But no, you mean it seemed like you were saying like, what is too much eye contact?
You know when it's too much eye contact. You can feel when it's too much eye contact.
I don't know that I do. I think that maybe I make too much eye contact. People have said that my eye contact is intimidating. Wow. And I don't know why. I don't think I'm a super intimidating person, but people have said that, and I'm like, okay, well, that sounds like your problem.
I'll report back next time I see you in person. I'll let everybody know. Is Brad a psychopath? Yes or no? Based on the eye contact, I'll let him know.
Let us know in the comments too what you guys think.
I mean, Charles is a psychopath for sure. 100%. 100%. Why?
Agent. Now I'm a psychopath.
By the way, your mom is listening to this, I assume, right? She'll be listening?
Maybe.
What do you mean, maybe? Charles, what high school did you go to in New Jersey?
I didn't go to high. I'm not telling you what high school I went to.
Why?
Trying to dig up some information.
Yes, I'm not telling you what high school I went to because you're not getting this video. Like it's just not.
Listen, Miss Blain, I've said this more than anybody else on this show. You are our favorite fan, and I mean that. You are our favorite fan, and I appreciate so much that you listen every single week. I know you do it for Charles. You don't do it for me. You don't do it for Michael. That's fine. You love your son. You should support him, and I am 100% on board with that. I just need this video of Charles Blain in high school, and I also need his other videos.
Okay, you can say it. I'm not ashamed of it.
Well, there's an MTV Real Worlds audition tape out there somewhere. And you know what, Miss Blain, if you don't have the video of Charles in high school where he talks about how he wants to be a DEA agent, fine if you don't have it. It's online somewhere. I just need to know what high school he went to, and I can find it.
Well, she definitely doesn't have the MTV audition tape. I can tell you that much.
Send me a DM, Miss Blain. Please.
We would very much like to see that video.
Oh my God. It would be, we all rib each other on the show, but it's out of love.
If we get that video, I am confident that it'll become part of our intros video and music.
So that was
right. That was fun. Okay, last topic of the day. Ann Coulter, in a podcast interview with Vivek Ramaswamy, Brad's favorite, said she
Ann
would
Coulter
not
Vivek.
Yes.
Vivek. She said she would not vote for Vivek, even though she agrees with most of the things he said, because he's Indian.
I mean,
Quote.
that's crazy.
She just said it.
What are your thoughts on that?
Do we have the tape?
Yeah, 1 second. Uh-oh. Can y'all hear that?
No.
Let me back it up. So you can't hear it unless I share the screen. That's good information. I appreciate y'all sharing that with me. Thank you so much. We're a team. All right, here we go. And boom.
Oh, and I agreed with many, many things you said during, in fact, probably more than most other candidates.
Not a psychopath.
But I still would not have voted for you because you're an Indian. There is a core national identity that is the identity of the WASP. And that doesn't mean we can't take anyone else in, a Sri Lankan or a Japanese or an Indian. But the core around which the nation's values are formed is the WASP. We've never had a president who didn't have at least partial English ancestry. Never.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of curious what he said to that because, like,
okay, I'm sorry. Here, let me back it up. I'll reshare 1 second. I didn't know.
Your potpourri topic, where you helps us identify psychopaths, did not work in this case because she moves her head quite a bit, and she is a psycho.
Well, that's interesting. You think that is Vivek? Are there not a lot? That's interesting. I mean, he's an Indian, and they do this a lot, right? So are there no psychopaths in India? What?
English ancestry. Never.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's an interesting tour through that historical lane, but I want to pick on one point you said, which is citizenship, right? Let's talk about what does it mean to be a citizen of a nation. And it's interesting, if a lot of people trip up on this, they'll say, well, it means what you get, right? Do I get to vote or do I get some other claim? And that doesn't really work. Actually, if you look through most of American history, for example, women were citizens long before women could vote, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's not about what you get. In my book, and I think that this is true with the American conception of citizenship, I think it's true of the Roman conception of citizenship, is it's about your loyalty, actually.
Yes.
To whom do you actually pledge loyalty? And so I think you and I share that in common, actually. I don't know, I've never asked you this, Ann, but I assume from seeing the things you said, tell me if I'm right about this, you're probably against the existence of dual citizenship as a concept. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Yes.
Uh-oh. Why are we all laughing?
Charles, tell me what's going on. I'm laughing at Charles laughing.
I can't believe you did that.
Can't believe I did what?
It's hot here. I can't even remember. This is like,
The Indian thing?
man.
They do that.
Anyway, so what are your thoughts on what he said?
On what-
Charles,
what
are you
Vivek said?
trying to claim that Indians don't do this with their head? I don't understand that they do that. That is something that they do.
No, they don't.
So,
They
yeah,
do.
I don't, what do you? Well,
They absolutely do that, Charles.
Who's they?
Indian
Yeah.
people.
Vivek was just talking. He wasn't doing that.
Yeah, well, he's pretty American, all right. But yes, in India, they do that.
Getting any
Oh,
better.
I mean, this is not hard to confirm.
It's kind of hard to confirm.
This isn't
No,
getting
it's
any
not.
better.
India is currently the second largest country in the world with over 1 billion people. It's going to be hard to confirm.
No, it's not. It is absolutely not.
You're in a trench and you're digging. You keep. Digging
I'm
the
not.
hole.
This is okay. You dumb motherfuckers. The head bobble. Wikipedia. The head
good
wobble, head wobble. An
source.
Indian head shake refers to a common gesture found in South Asian cultures, most notably in India. How is this controversial? This is Wikipedia of all places, where if anything, you're never going to find anything that's not PC in Wikipedia.
Huh.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm sorry that I'm more culturally sensitive and aware of what other cultures do to goons. God.
I mean, he did bring the receipts. I was not aware of this.
I
So-
don't even know anything he said. Like I can't even tell you like a word that he said. I couldn't.
He brought
Who,
up
by
Yeah, because
No,
wasn't
my
paying
thing, I brought the receipts that I'm correct.
Oh. Okay.
You should be used to this by now, Charles.
Yes. So used to it.
So
All right.
thoughts on Ann Coulter?
I mean, dual citizenship is kind of. I mean, I don't know that I have a problem. I don't think I have a problem. Maybe someone could point out a problem that I'm not aware of. But just people having dual citizenship, whatever. I don't think that's necessarily a problem. I think that our elected officials, if they have dual citizenship, that's not good,
Yeah.
right?
Sure, I agree.
Well,
I agree with elected officials having dual citizenship, and actually, I mean,
Not or do.
No, not being able to. I don't know about for president, but I'm pretty sure to serve in like senior levels of government, you can't, if I'm not mistaken. I thought
Well,
you could only
That wasn't her criticism, was it?
well, I don't know why he brought that up. No, but her criticism was she couldn't vote for him because he was Indian, which I think is crazy.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, like you can't vote for him because he's Indian, and like this country was built on white Anglo-Saxon Protestant principles, and so therefore he's gonna ruin the country. I think that's crazy. Just like you saying you can't vote for somebody because they're Jewish or they're black or any reason that is not because you disagree with their principles. I think is kind of dumb. But in particular, to Brad's point about because he mentioned dual citizenship, Vivek did in some context. I don't know what he said.
I think he was trying to make the point that what has he contributed to the people should be judged based on their contribution. I think was what the point he was trying to make.
I think
Not
Brad's
on there.
googling should people not people not white be president, and I don't know what he's getting.
Wait, what do you think I'm Googling?
Should not white people be allowed to be president?
Should not. That's how I would Google it. You think should not white people be president?
Listen, I'm done after that last segment. Like I can't even get it back together. I've been trying to put it back together ever since.
Well, I think it's kind of wild as well that Ann Coulter would say, "I'm not going to vote for you because you're Indian." People often point to the UK and the other European countries that are headed up by Indian or Pakistani men now, instead of like an Irishman or a the mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, is in his third term now. I think he just won. And it's kind of interesting how times have changed. As you know, I was a big supporter of Vivek. I obviously would have voted for him, and I did in the primary. I don't care that he's Indian.
Yeah, me neither.
Right.
Ann Coulter she got propelled to fame with the Trump stuff, and then she's just been on a crash course down from the mountaintop.
From down on high. How so? What do you mean?
I don't know. She predicted he'd win, and then she got a big book deal and then she's on all these shows and kind of in the national spotlight, and then she got crossways with Trump, and it's just been all downhill for her.
Because he didn't build the wall.
Yeah, she was pissed about that, which, I mean, yeah, he said he was going to. And then she supported DeSantis and went on a tour about how he was the only one that could win, and we had to support him. And she predicted that he would win the Republican primary. And now she's going on Vivek's show saying she won't vote for him because he's Indian. Just going full racist.
What are you going to do?
Charles is done.
Yeah, Michael did it. I did it. Charles almost did it. It's more ear to shoulder.
Yeah, this is a good way to wrap up. Okay. Well, that was fun.
Yes. It's been great.
It was great. Charles, come on. You're gonna. I mean, people are gonna see this and they're like, "Yeah, what? How did Charles not know this? Does he hate India?" And the answer is yes, people. He does.
I'm the one who said I would. I'm the first one on here who said I would vote for an Indian president. So
I said this when Vivek was running. I'm the resident Vivek supporter.
He's talking about Nikki Haley.
no, no, I didn't. I mean, no, I'm not.
Uh-oh. I mean, you did want to be.
Who are you talking about?
You fucking
No,
narc.
I'm talking about today. After the Vivek thing, I was the first one to say I would vote for him.
Oh, got it.
Do you want to be a DEA agent because you're a narc?
Maybe. Used to be.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we can keep dragging it out, or I could just cut it. No, let's wrap it up. Thanks for joining the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe, share with your friends, share with your moms. Tune in. Do we have a guest next week? No.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. We'll let you know on the Twitter.
No, we do.
We'll figure it out.
The person you've been trying to get forever, and then
that's the 31st. That's May 31st. That's May 31st.
Okay.
We should get guests next week. You can follow us on Twitter for all the updates on who we're having on the show. Our Twitter handles are right there. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, guys. Bye.